So there's a lot of rumblings about the PlayStation 3 and its games, saying the prices are going up on a lot of these games. And I seen this coming probably about a year or two ago. I knew this was going to be a thing, especially when the PlayStation Store threatened to close down a couple years back. And I was like, yo, this is the time that you may want to start picking up PS3 games. And in some cases, you can even talk about Xbox 360 games as well. But we're going to talk about PS3 games where I feel like there's a time to actually pick these things up now. If you don't get in right now, you may be too late. To be honest, you may be too late now. Where a lot of games that used to be $4 or $5, they're jumping up to $15 to $19 and so on and so on. Now, why is this happening? Well, basically, there's a lot of nostalgia going on, and I'm not trying to say that in a bad way. It's just we got to understand that there ebb and flows to this. Like, you got to look back when the 360, their store went down. You start to see where a lot of Xbox 360 prices start to go up. And to be quite honest, they're kind of staying there. And it's going to be the same thing with the PlayStation 3. Now, all throughout the world, there are like different areas where the PlayStation 3 store is going to be down. You're looking at a situation where the PlayStation 3 is down in like at the end of this month. And then there's supposed to be later on this year. And for us in the US, it's going to be in 2027. I can't remember the actual dates and areas, but it is like in increments where basically like at the end of this month, I know for one region of the world is going to be down. I mean, I'll have the link down in the description so you'll know about all that stuff. Can't remember everything. But with that being said, this is where you're going to start seeing an uptick of physical prices because people are starting to realize like, hey, look, this is a good time to jump in and get these games. And when the demand is there and, you know, the price go up. I mean, that's just basically how it is. It's always like that when there's a situation where people want something, you know, a lot of these stores, they realize like, hey, look, the PlayStation 3 is starting to get really popular. Let's jump these prices up $10, $15. And that's what's happening. Like I've seen games like Heavenly Sword. I've seen other games that are out there that are just absolutely going up in price at GameStops now. Yeah, even the retro GameStops are actually jacking up prices. But like I said, this is not a thing. I went to a game store the other day just to, you know, browse and see what's going on. And I'm starting to see like games going up in the $30 and $40 range. I mean, like I remember like King of Fighters 13, that game is now almost $40 PS3. I'm like, what is going on here? That is insane. But when you look at these type of games in lower print or some games that are really popular, you start to see that games that are actually in the area where it is only on the PS3, they're starting to go up. And I saw this coming a mile away. You know, I saw this coming years ago. So for me, like if you can see on my screen behind me, like right over the shoulder right here where my thumb is, all of these are PS3 games. Now, do I have an abundance of PS3 games? No, I basically pick up the games that I want to pick up. I didn't go out there and just try to get a game because it's rare, because these games are just going to sit. Every game that I have, I love playing and I do play. So I'm never in a dry moment when I play games. I always have something to play, but and I'm not trying to say this to knock anybody, whatever, because it is a business. It's an economy in this. People do buy these rare games just to have them, and they're going to find a way to actually, you know, flip them at some point. You know, I know this is a thing, and people try to put them in, you know, in a case where they get graded and all. They do all the type of stuff, but you know, but if you're somebody like me, you know, or you just want to collect, this would be a good time to actually jump in like right now, you know, because I don't see where it's going to end for some reason. That I do feel like this is going to be different from what the Xbox 360 was. The Xbox 360, their prices went up. There are some games out there that are pretty, you know, cool. Some of them are fairly expensive, but I think for some reason the PlayStation 3 is going to be one of those consoles that's going to really shoot up in price a little bit more because for the most part, we don't know what the PlayStation 6 is going to do as far as backwards compatibility. And I don't think they're going to have any backwards compatibility with their disc, because the way that the PS6 is possibly set up, a lot of these games are probably going to be just locked to the PS3. So it's like that is going to be a situation where these prices may even go higher, and it could be a situation where that the PlayStation 3 could be in one of those stratospheres where it could, some of these games could be completely out of reach. I don't think it's going to get anywhere where it's like the Dreamcast and the Saturn is, but it could get to that point where it's almost there, where some of these games are like, man, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of hard to get, you know. I mean, like when you look at those type of, consoles that have that issue, Saturn, Dreamcast, the GameCube, some of their games are up there in price, you know. I mean, and I'm not talking about like rare games. I'm just talking about just some of their prime time top tier games are just expensive. And I see the PS3 possibly going that same route. So like I said, get in it now. Now, before I get out of here, I will say this. What should you do if you're planning on getting into the PS3? Honestly, buy the games that you want to buy. Do not, unless if you just want to go this route, do not get into the habit of trying to buy games just because they're there. You think you're going to flip them, you're going to make. I think that ship is kind of sailed. You may find some gems there where you can flip a game and make some real money, but I don't see that happening at this point, because if you didn't get in early, you're not gonna make that type of profit. The ones who make profit off of these type of things are the ones that do it when everything is quiet. Now that the word is getting out, it's probably not going to be as sufficient as far as actually flipping. So like I said, get the games that you want to get and play them and rock out. The PlayStation 3 is an excellent console. I enjoy playing them, and I enjoy playing the games. And I really think that if you haven't already, or you want to go back to doing it, I think it will be a really good, investment of your time and investment of your enjoyment. I think this is a console that you could get a lot out of. Not only that, if you're lucky, you can get the console that plays all PlayStation 1 and PS2 games, and you'll be really good then. But even if you don't get one of those, one that plays just PS1 games, you'll still be in pretty good shape. If you really know what you're doing, you can actually jailbreak your PS3 with, which I'm not going to get too far in the weeds in that, because when you jailbreak, you can start doing other things. I'm just basically talking about the economy as far as collecting the games, and the games are going up in price. It is getting to that point where you need to get in where you fit in. Get in where you fit in. And if you're trying to get into a situation where you're trying to actually get into this economy and try to make profit, it's going to be tough, because once the word get out, like I said, the word is out now, and people are actually trying to start to look, and other places are actually raising prices. Once it get to that point, it's going to be flooded with more people trying to get in and actually trying to flip a hidden gem, or flip a game that you can probably get. You're probably not going to be able to be that successful. I mean, that's just how it usually is. Once you hear about it, it's probably too late. The ones who really going to make a profit are the ones who been holding on to their games all this time. And now, since they paid maybe $5 or $6 for those games, now those games are $20, $30, $40. They can go in now. But if you're trying to get in now, you find one of these quote unquote, rare or really good games at $15. I mean, it's $15 now for a reason. It's not necessarily $15 because you found it there and you think it's going to go up to 70. Now, you know what I'm saying? Some of these PS3 games are already at that point because the word is already out and it's already been an economy and people are just starting to talk about it. So you gotta start in when the games are cheap, and bounce out when it's really high. So if you haven't started already, if you're just getting in, you may want to get in just to buy some games and play them, but you're probably too late to get into that economy where you could flip. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but unless something else really is going on where these extremely, get up there in top tier, where you're talking about Sega Saturn games. And that's when you probably could make something, but I don't see PS3 games getting up to the Sega Saturn tier. I mean, some of those games are $8, $9, $900. I mean, some Sega Saturn games are extremely expensive. It's kind of crazy, but nevertheless, you guys let me know what you think. Are you trying to get into PS3 collecting? If you have so already, what are you doing with the PS3? Are you holding on to these games? Are you just going to try to get in to try to find some good games just to play to have? Because right now, physical games are like, they're about to be a hot commodity. And if you haven't gotten to the start of it yet, you need to start right now. But nevertheless, I'm gonna get up out of here. Take it easy and y'all be blessed. Peace.